I opened my eyes to silk sheets and morning light filtering through cream-coloured curtains. My hands trembled as I lifted them before my face. Young hands, smooth hands. Hands without the track marks from the IV drips in the hospital. Hands without the scars of pills I'd swallowed in desperation. Hands without the rope, burns from the night I tried to end it all. 23 again. 3 years before my death. 5 years before the absolute destruction of everything I'd once been. My heart hammered against my ribs like a prisoner beating against cell bars. The bedroom. Our bedroom. The one Marcus and I had shared in the early days when I still believed love could conquer debt, addiction, and lies. When I'd thought marriage was about partnership, not parasitism. The wallpaper was still that soft sage green I'd chosen. The furniture was still the expensive set I'd bought with my inheritance. My parents' life insurance money that was supposed to secure my future. Instead, it had furnished a prison I'd decorated myself. I sat up slowly, my body moving with an ease I'd forgotten existed. No chronic pain from stress, no exhaustion from sleepless nights worrying about debt collectors, no hollow emptiness from starvation because I couldn't afford food after paying his gambling debts. The mirror across the room showed me a face I'd almost forgotten. Clear skin without the sallow tinge of malnutrition. Bright eyes without the darkness of despair. Hope still living in the curve of my lips, in the set of my shoulders. That hope had killed me. That hope had made me believe Marcus when he said, "Just one more time." That hope had made me forgive Claire when she'd borrowed money she never repaid. That hope had made me think family meant loyalty and love meant sacrifice. "Amelia?" Marcus's voice drifted from the bathroom, young and vibrant. No slurring yet. The alcohol hadn't fully taken hold in this timeline. "You awake, babe?" Babe. He used to call me that before the gambling started. Before the loans from loan sharks with interest rates that could kill. Before he drained my inheritance and left me with nothing but a bottle of sleeping pills and a suicide note no one ever read. Before he'd moved on to Claire within 3 months of my funeral. I touched my throat, my fingers finding smooth, unblemished skin. In my past life, I'd hanged myself in this very room on a Tuesday afternoon, 36 hours before anyone found me. I'd called Marcus 17 times that day. He hadn't answered. He'd been at Claire's apartment. My sister, Claire, had been the one to discover my body when she'd finally stopped by to check on me. She'd screamed, called 911, cried at my funeral. She'd also been wearing my diamond earrings at the funeral, the ones Marcus had bought her with my money 2 weeks before my death. I'd seen them in the reflection of my closed casket before everything went dark. The memory burned like acid in my veins. Amelia. Marcus emerged from the bathroom, towel around his waist, water still glistening on his chest. That boyish smile that once melted me. The warm brown eyes that had looked at me like I was his whole world, before I'd become just his wallet. "You okay? You look pale." I stared at him. Really stared. At 28, he still had that charm. The warm brown eyes that crinkled when he smiled. The athletic build he maintained by going to the gym, the expensive gym membership I'd paid for, the way he tilted his head like a concerned puppy when he wanted something. I'd loved him so much it destroyed me. I'd loved him through the lies, through the debt, through the nights he didn't come home, through the moments I'd found evidence of his affair and convinced myself I was seeing things. I'd loved him until there was nothing left of me to love with. "I'm fine," I said. My voice came out cold, detached, like ice over deep water, like the voice of someone who died and come back with all the softness frozen out of her. He blinked, actually taking a step back. Surprised. Uncertain. Good. Let him feel uncertain for once. Let him feel the ground shifting beneath his feet the way I'd felt it every single day of my past life. You sure? He moved toward the bed, reaching for my hand. You sound different. I pulled my hand away before he could touch me. His fingers closed on empty air. The hurt that flashed across his face almost made me feel something. Almost. Then I remembered the funeral. The earrings. Claire's hand in his at the wake while she dabbed at crocodile tears. I am sure, I said. Get dressed, we need to talk. Breakfast happened in silence, heavy enough to suffocate. I made coffee. Black. No sugar the way Marcus liked it. I watched him drink it across the kitchen table, watched his Adam's apple bob as he swallowed, and remembered how I'd begged him not to take out that final loan. How he had promised it was the last time. How I'd believed him because I'd been desperate to believe in something. Fool. I'd been such a fool. The kitchen looked the same as it had in my memories. The granite countertops I'd chosen, the expensive espresso machine that had been a gift from Marcus, paid for with my credit card. The herb garden in the window that I'd maintained while he'd destroyed everything else. So, Marcus said, setting down his cup with a careful clink. He was trying to sound casual, but I could hear the tension. He sensed something had shifted. I was thinking about that investment opportunity. The one Chen mentioned at poker night? Chen? His gambling buddy? The one who'd introduced him to underground poker games, where he'd lost $300,000 of my inheritance in 6 months. The one who'd sold him on sure thing investments that had evaporated like smoke. In my past life, I'd said yes. I'd handed over the remaining funds from my parents' estate. I'd trusted him when he'd said this was different, this was legitimate, this was our chance to get back everything he'd lost. I'd been so stupid. No! The single syllable dropped like a stone into still water. Marcus froze, his cup halfway to his lips. What? I said no. I met his eyes, held them without flinching. You're not getting another cent from me. Not for Chen's investment. Not for anything. His face shifted through expressions like shuffling cards. Confusion. Then irritation. Then a flash of something uglier, anger at being denied. Amelia, we talked about this. This is a sure thing. Chen knows people in real estate development. The returns could be incredible. Chen is a parasite who's already taken $200,000 from us. I stood, my chair scraping against the floor with a sound like a scream. And so are you. Silence crashed between us like a wave breaking against rocks. Marcus's mouth opened, closed, opened again. What the hell has gotten into you? Everything. Death, rebirth, clarity sharp enough to cut. The knowledge that every dollar I'd given him had been a shovel of dirt on my own grave. I want a divorce. The words hung in the air like smoke, sharp, irreversible, final. Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. You're joking. This is because you're stressed about work, right? You need a vacation. We can go to that resort you liked. The resort I paid for while you gambled away our future. I grabbed my purse from the counter. My car keys. No, I'm done, Marcus. Done with the lies. Done with the debt. Done with you. Amelia, come on. His voice pitched higher. Desperate now. He could sense the control slipping like sand through his fingers. What's this really about? You on your period or something? You know you get emotional. Don't. I turned on him, and something in my face made him step back. Don't you dare reduce this to hormones. I am thinking more clearly than I have in years. Maybe for the first time since I met you. Where are you going? He moved to block the doorway, hands up in a placating gesture that made my skin crawl. We need to talk about this. You can't just walk away from a marriage. Watch me! I pushed past him. He grabbed my arm, and I yanked free with a violence that surprised both of us. Don't ever touch me again. I said softly, or I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man you are. The gambling, the debts, all of it. His face paled. You wouldn't... Try me. I walked out the door and didn't look back. Behind me, I heard him call my name. Desperate, angry, scared, music to my ears. Claire lived 20 minutes away in the apartment I'd helped her rent when she'd needed a fresh start after her last breakup. I'd paid her deposit. Her first 3 months of rent. Bought her furniture from that expensive boutique she'd loved. Co-signed her lease when her credit wasn't good enough. All while she'd been sleeping with my husband behind my back for 2 years. In my past life, I'd found out about the affair 3 weeks before I died. I'd confronted Marcus. He'd denied it, gaslit me into thinking I was paranoid, crazy, seeing things that weren't there. I believed him because the alternative, that both my husband and my sister had betrayed me, was too painful to accept. I'd chosen delusion over truth. That choice had killed me, and this time I was choosing differently. I knocked on her door at 9 a.m, early enough that she'd be home, late enough that she'd be awake. She answered in silk pajamas, designer blush pink with lace trim, the ones I'd bought her for Christmas last year. She'd gushed about how much she loved them, how I was the best sister ever. She'd been wearing them the morning I died, according to the timestamp on the security footage I'd reviewed in my last conscious moments, when she'd left Marcus's hotel room. Amelia! Her face lit up with that practiced sweetness that had taken me decades to recognise as fake. What a surprise! Come in, come in. I was just making breakfast. Want some? I stepped inside. The apartment smelled like vanilla candles and lies. Everything was decorated in soft whites and creams, feminine, innocent, the perfect backdrop for a woman who played the victim while destroying everyone around her. Coffee? Claire moved to the kitchen, all graceful movements. She'd always been the prettier one. Softer features, better hair, smaller waist. Mother used to say Claire got the beauty, I got the brains. Mother was wrong. I got neither, just naivety and a bank account. I need to talk to you about Marcus, I said, watching her carefully. Claire's hand hesitated over the coffee pot. Just a fraction of a second. Then she recovered, smiled, turned to face me. What about him? Is everything okay? The concern in her voice was almost believable. I'm leaving him. She turned fully now, eyes wide with practiced surprise. What? Why? Amelia, you two are perfect together. You're like the couple everyone envies. Perfect. We were a train wreck. A slow-motion disaster that ended with my corpse swinging from a ceiling fan while she consoled my grieving widower. I don't love him anymore, I lied. Truth was, part of me still did. The stupid, broken part that remembered his smile before the rot set in. The part that had loved him so much I'd let him destroy me. Actually, I think you should have him. Claire's face went blank. Completely blank. Like a computer rebooting. What? You've always admired him, haven't you? I moved closer, watching her pupils dilate with something between fear and excitement. Always asked about him, always found excuses to visit when he was home, always dressed up a little nicer when you knew he'd be around. Amelia, I would never... She was stammering now, her carefully constructed mask cracking. I'm giving you my blessing. I smiled, cold, calculated, the smile of someone who died and learned the truth too late. If you want Marcus, he's yours. I won't stand in your way. I won't fight for him. I won't tell anyone. He's all yours, Claire. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Processing, trying to figure out the trap. There was no trap, just a noose I was handing her, watching to see if she'd slip her neck inside willingly. I don't understand, Claire said finally, her voice small. You love Marcus. You've been together for 5 years. You married him. Why would you just give him away? Because I'm tired, I said, and that at least was true. I'm tired of fighting, tired of trying, tired of being the only one holding our marriage together. And I've seen the way you look at him, the way he looks at you. Her face flushed. Guilt. I don't know what you think you saw. It doesn't matter what I saw. I headed for the door, paused with my hand on the knob. What matters is what happens next. You want him. Take him. But Claire, what? I looked back at her, really looked at her. My baby sister, the one I'd protected, supported, loved unconditionally, the one who'd stolen my husband and smiled at my funeral. When you take him, remember something. What? Her voice was barely a whisper. You'll get exactly what you deserve. The words hung in the air like a prophecy. I left her standing there, frozen, and closed the door softly behind me. Marcus called 17 times that day. I didn't answer. Each ignored call felt like a small victory, like reclaiming pieces of myself I'd given away. Claire called twice that afternoon, then 3 more times that evening. I let every call ring through to voicemail. By evening, I was at my lawyer's office, a place I'd never thought I'd need to visit. Martin Chen, no relation to Marcus's gambling friend, thankfully, sat across from me with divorce papers spread across his mahogany desk like a battle plan. You're sure about this? Martin asked, looking at me over his reading glasses. He was older, 50s maybe, with grey hair and kind eyes that had probably seen 1,000 marriages end. No reconciliation period? No counselling? Completely sure. The prenup is solid. You'll keep your inheritance, what's left of it. He gets nothing from the marriage, no alimony, no assets, nothing. What's left? $70,000. In my past life, it had been 0. Less than 0. I'd been $20,000 in debt when I died. Good, I said. File it tomorrow. Serve him as soon as legally possible. Martin nodded slowly. He'll fight it. Men like him usually do. They'll claim reconciliation, emotional distress, anything to drag it out. Let him fight. I met Martin's eyes. I have documentation of every dollar he's taken, every gambling debt, every lie. I'm prepared for a war if that's what he wants. Something flickered in Martin's expression. Respect, maybe. Most people try to avoid that. Most people didn't die because of their spouse's addiction. Martin blinked. I'm sorry. Nothing. I signed my name at the bottom of the document. Amelia Chen, soon to be just Amelia again, just thinking out loud. The pen felt heavy in my hand. Final. This was real. I was really doing this. In my past life, I had considered divorce. Thought about it during the worst moments. But I'd always talked myself out of it. Love, I'd thought. For better or worse, I'd thought. He needs me, I'd thought. All lies I'd told myself while drowning. There's one more thing, Martin said, pulling out another document. A restraining order. If you think he might become volatile... Not yet, I said, but keep it ready. Martin nodded, making a note. Smart. And Miss Chen? For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. So do I said. 5 years too late, but better late than never. Better late than dead, I didn't say. Marcus was waiting at my apartment when I returned that night. He'd let himself in with the key I'd forgotten to take back. He stood in my living room, the apartment I'd rented separately because I'd needed space from him, even before I'd consciously admitted our marriage was over. Face red, hands shaking with a barely contained rage. Divorce, papers. He waved them like evidence of my betrayal, not his. You had me served at work, Amelia. At work. Do you know how humiliating that was? Everyone saw. Everyone knows now. Good. Let them know. Let the whole world know that the perfect Marcus Chen The charming man everyone loved was getting divorced because he destroyed his wife. Do you know how humiliating it was to find out you'd gambled away my parents' estate? I set down my bag with deliberate calm. Steady. In control for once. The money they left me to be secure. To build a future. You destroyed it, Marcus. All of it. His face shifted from red to pale. How did you... I've always known. Lie. In my past life, I'd found out 2 years later, when the debt collectors came. When they'd taken everything. When they'd repossessed my car, cleared my bank account, threatened to take me to court. When I'd had nothing left but that bottle of pills and the crushing weight of betrayal. But he didn't need to know that. Let him think I'd known all along and stayed anyway. Let him feel that guilt. It was a bad streak, Marcus said, his voice taking on that wheedling quality that used to make me soften. It happens to people. Gambling addiction is a disease, Amelia. I needed help, not judgment. You needed to stop lying. I was going to pay it back. His hands clenched into fists at his sides. I had a plan. If you just trusted me... With what money? I moved to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water with hands that didn't shake. You had no job, no income, no plan except to take more from me until there was nothing left. That's not fair. Neither was death, I said softly. He stopped mid-protest. What? I smiled, cold and empty. Nothing. Just thinking about the future, or rather the future you won't have access to. Marcus stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Maybe he was. Maybe he'd never actually looked at me before, just at what I could give him. You've changed, he said finally. Something's wrong with you. This isn't you. Something's finally right with me. I opened the door, gesturing toward the hallway. Leave, or I'll call the police and explain how you broke into my apartment. I have a key. That I didn't give you permission to use. That's still breaking and entering Marcus. Want to test me? His jaw worked. He wanted to argue, wanted to rage, wanted to guilt me, manipulate me, do whatever it took to regain control. But something in my face stopped him. Maybe he could see it. The death I'd already experienced. The woman who had nothing left to lose because she'd already lost everything. He left, but not before turning back at the door, his face a mixture of anger and desperation. Claire called me, he said. Said you told her to... Said you wanted us to... Did she take the bait? I asked, genuinely curious now. His face reddened. I don't know what sick game you're playing. No game. Just truth. You two deserve each other. You're both parasites. Both liars. Both perfectly willing to destroy me for your own benefit. I smiled. The only difference is, this time you'll destroy each other instead. You're insane. Maybe. I started to close the door. Or maybe I'm the only sane one left. Enjoy your new relationship, Marcus. I hope it's everything you deserve. I closed the door in his face, locked it. Then pressed my back against it and waited until I heard his footsteps fade down the hallway. Only then did I let out the breath I'd been holding. My hands were shaking now. My whole body was shaking. But I was smiling. For the first time since I'd woken up in the past, I felt something like hope. 2 weeks passed. Divorce proceedings moved forward like a slow-motion car crash. Marcus fought every step, demanded reconciliation counselling, claimed temporary insanity on my part, tried to argue that I was having a mental breakdown and couldn't make rational decisions. Martin crushed every motion with the efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. But the interesting part happened in the shadows, in the spaces between legal filings. Claire had taken the bait. I saw them together at a coffee shop 3 weeks after I'd served Marcus. It was one of those accidental meetings that was anything but. Claire, wearing a soft blue dress that made her look innocent and vulnerable. Marcus playing the wounded, abandoned husband, her hand on his arm. Comfort, she'd claim. Just sisterly support. His leaning in, eyes red-rimmed, vulnerable, needy. Everything he'd never shown me because he'd never needed to. I'd given him everything without requiring vulnerability. I watched from across the street, sitting at a different cafe, sipping tea that had gone cold, feeling nothing but a distant satisfaction. In my past life, their affair had been secret, shameful. They'd hidden it until after my death, then publicly mourned me while moving in together 3 months later. They'd played the grief-stricken widower and supportive sister while sharing my bed, my house, my life. This time, I'd made it legitimate, given them permission. Removed the thrill of the forbidden, the excitement of sneaking around. Now they'd just have each other, and the debt, and the addiction, and the slow spiral into hell. Claire didn't know what she was taking on. She'd find out soon enough. I watched them for another hour. Watched him pay for coffee with a credit card, probably maxed out. Watched her smile at him like he was her salvation, not her doom. Then I finished my cold tea and went back to work. I had a life to rebuild. The divorce finalised on a Tuesday, 3 months after I'd filed. Marcus got nothing. I got my freedom and what remained of my inheritance, $70,000 and change. He moved in with Claire that same week. I knew because she called me, her voice bright with forced cheer that couldn't quite hide the uncertainty underneath. Amelia, I hope this doesn't make things weird between us. Weird. She'd slept with my husband, taken him the moment I offered, and worried about weird. Not at all, I said, sweet as poison. I hope you two are very happy together. We are too enthusiastic, overcompensating, trying to convince herself as much as me. Marcus says you were right, that you two weren't compatible, that he and I just fit better. We understand each other. Fit. They'd fit like a noose and a neck. I'm glad, I said, my voice warm. Supportive. The good sister. Has he mentioned his investment opportunities to you yet? A pause. Long enough to be meaningful. What investment opportunities? Oh, nothing. Never mind. Just be careful with joint bank accounts, okay? I let the words hang there. A warning disguised as sisterly advice. Why would you enjoy your new relationship, Claire? Really? I mean that. I hung up before she could respond. 3 days later, Marcus asked Claire for money. $50,000. For a sure thing investment opportunity. The same one he'd asked me about the morning I'd told him I wanted a divorce. I knew because Claire called me, and this time there was no brightness in her voice. Just panic. He says he needs $50,000 for a business investment with Chen. Amelia, did you? Yes, I said simply. He asked me for money constantly. How do you think my inheritance disappeared? How do you think I went from having $300,000 to $70,000 in 3 years? Silence on the line. I could almost hear her brain working, recalculating, seeing the trap she'd walked into. Claire, I'm going to tell you something important. I kept my voice level, kind even, the caring older sister. You made your choice. You chose him over me. You chose him knowing what he was, or at least you had every opportunity to know. Now live with it. I won't warn you again. I won't save you. Whatever happens next is entirely your responsibility. Amelia, wait. I didn't know. Yes, you did. You just didn't care because you thought you'd get something better than what I had. You thought you were special, that he'd be different with you. I paused. He won't be. He'll be exactly the same. And when he's taken everything from you, when you're drowning the way I drowned, don't call me. That's cruel. No, I said softly. What you did was cruel. This is just justice. I ended the call, blocked her number, and went back to my life. I watched from a distance as they destroyed each other. It was fascinating in a detached way, like watching a documentary about a natural disaster. Terrible, but impossible to look away from. Marcus's gambling addiction, freed from my restraint and my resources, exploded like a bomb. He borrowed from Claire's savings, then her credit cards, then loan sharks with interest rates that compounded daily. Claire, desperate to keep him, to prove she could do what I couldn't, paid, and paid, and paid. I heard about it through mutual friends, the kind of friends who loved gossip more than they loved either of us. Did you hear Claire had to sell her car? Did you know Marcus got fired from another job? Someone said they saw Claire working at a diner, like actually waitressing. Each piece of news was a small satisfaction. Not joy, I wasn't capable of joy about this, but satisfaction. The scales balancing. She sold her jewellery, her designer clothes, the furniture I'd bought her. She moved from her nice apartment to a studio in a bad neighbourhood. Then to a room in a shared house. Then to sleeping on friends' couches while Marcus promised things would get better. I saw her sometimes. At the grocery store, buying the cheapest generic brands. At the bank, probably trying to open yet another credit card. At the mall, window shopping for things she could no longer afford. She looked tired, older, dark circles under her eyes. The soft prettiness she'd always relied on was fading under the weight of stress and poverty. Designer clothes replaced with thrift store finds, hair dye growing out showing grey roots she was too poor to cover, nails that used to be perfectly manicured now bitten and ragged. She'd see me and look away, ashamed. I'd smile politely and keep walking. Sometimes I'd be pushing a cart full of nice things, fresh produce, quality meat, expensive wine, little luxuries I could afford now that I wasn't supporting a parasite. I'd catch her watching me with something like hunger in her eyes. Not for the food, for the freedom. She'd made her choice. Now she was living with it. Marcus got worse. The gambling became cocaine. The cocaine became paranoia. He'd show up at Claire's work, whatever job she was working that week, and make scenes. Accuse her of cheating, demand money, break things. She got fired from 2 jobs in 3 months because of him. Just like I had in my past life. She'd call mutual friends. They'd tell me she'd asked about me, about how I'd handled him, about whether I had any advice. I never reached out. She'd asked for this, begged for it, in her way. Who was I to deny her the full experience? 6 months after the divorce, Claire showed up at my door. It was late, after midnight. I was awake, working on my business plan. I'd started a consulting firm with my remaining inheritance, something I'd always wanted to do but had never had the money for while married to Marcus. The knock was soft, hesitant, almost like she hoped I wouldn't answer. I looked through the peephole first, a habit I developed after Marcus had broken into my apartment. Claire stood there, hunched, shaking. She'd lost weight, a lot of weight. I could see the outline of her collarbones through her thin shirt. Her hair was unwashed, hanging in greasy strands. She looked like she'd aged 10 years and 6 months. She looked like I had looked before I died. I opened the door. "Please," she whispered, just that one word. Then her face crumpled and she started to cry. "Please, Amelia, I need help." I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who'd betrayed me, who'd taken everything I'd offered, both knowingly and unknowingly, who'd smiled at my funeral while wearing my jewellery. Part of me, the part that remembered dying, felt nothing. But another part, buried deep, remembered when we were children, when I'd protected her from bullies, when I'd helped her with homework, when I'd believed she was my best friend. That part almost made me soften. Almost. No, I said. Amelia, please. I know I was wrong. I know I hurt you. But he's going to kill me. Her voice broke. The people he owes, they came to the house. They threatened me. They said if we don't pay by the end of the week, you should leave him. I can't. She was crying harder now, makeup running down her face in black streaks. I love him. Those words. The same ones that had damned me, the same ones I'd said to myself 1,000 times while drowning in debt and despair. Then you'll die with him, I said. Not cruel, just factual, speaking from experience. Just like I almost did. Her eyes widened. What? In another life, I stayed. I paid his debts. I sacrificed everything, my money, my dignity, my mental health, my physical health. I gave him everything until there was nothing left to give. The confession came easily. Truth too strange to believe. And when there was nothing left, when I was empty and broken and had nowhere else to turn, I killed myself. She stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. You're living the life I escaped, Claire. The one I handed to you like a gift wrapped in poison. The one I died rather than continue living. You're insane, she breathed. Maybe. I started to close the door, my hand steady on the knob. Or maybe I'm the only sane one here. I gave you exactly what you wanted. My husband, my life, my problems. Congratulations. You won. You knew, she said, her voice breaking. You knew what he was and you gave him to me anyway. Yes, that's monstrous. I paused, considering. No, I said softly. That's justice. You wanted him. You took him from me while I was still married to him. You slept with him in my bed. You wore jewelry he bought with my money. You smiled at my funeral while planning your future with him. I met her eyes. I just made it easier for you to have what you already wanted. The only difference is this time, you can't pretend to be the innocent victim. You chose this, Claire, knowing what he was, knowing what I'd gone through. I didn't know. Yes, you did. You just didn't care. I started to close the door again. Now go. I have work in the morning. Amelia, please. She put her hand on the door, stopping me. Her nails were broken and dirty. I'm your sister. My sister died the day she betrayed me. I looked at her hand until she removed it. You're just a stranger wearing her face. He'll kill me, she whispered. If I can't pay them, they'll kill me, or he'll kill me, or I'll... She broke off, but I knew what she'd been about to say. Or I'll kill myself, just like I had. For a moment, just a moment, I felt something like regret. Like maybe I'd gone too far. Maybe I was the monster she'd called me. Then I remembered the funeral, the earrings, the way they'd moved on within months while I was still in the ground. Then die, I said. You made your choice. Now live with it. Or don't. Either way, it's not my problem anymore. I closed the door. Her sobs echoed in the hallway, getting quieter as she walked away. I stood there, my hand still on the knob, waiting for guilt to come. It didn't. I felt nothing but a distant satisfaction. Justice served cold. A year passed. I built my consulting firm from the ground up. Small at first, just me and a laptop. Then clients came, projects grew. I hired an assistant, then 3 more employees. The business thrived on my freedom. No Marcus to drain me, no Claire to manipulate me, no family obligations choking me. I heard through mutual friends that Marcus had been arrested. Fraud, embezzlement, the gambling debts had pushed him to steal from his employer. He'd get 5 years, maybe more. Claire had testified against him in exchange for immunity. Smart girl. She'd learned survival after all. She'd also filed for bankruptcy. Lost everything. Moved back to our aunt's house in the countryside, broken and alone. I never reached out, never checked on her, never offered help. She'd asked for Marcus. She got exactly what she deserved. Epilogue: 2 years after my rebirth, I stood in my new office. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Success built on the ashes of my old life. My phone rang. Unknown number. Amelia? Claire's voice. Older, tired. I know you won't forgive me, but I wanted to say thank you. Thank you? You could have let me discover the truth slowly. Let me waste decades instead of the years. You gave me the cruelest mercy. Fast pain instead of slow death. She paused. I understand now what you did. Why you did it. Goodbye, Claire. Goodbye. I deleted the number and turned to my city view. In my past life, kindness had killed me. In this life, ruthlessness had saved me. I smiled at my reflection, the strong woman who'd crawled out of death and built something new. Survival required sacrifice. I just sacrificed the right people this time. And the ghost of who I used to be, the girl who died believing in love, finally stopped haunting me. She understood now. Some people deserve to drown, and I deserve to breathe.